Hi, my name is Christy. Welcome back to my channel where I take old things and turn them into new things. And welcome back to part 2 of how to make green tops for St. Patrick's Day. Green is a color that looks good on everybody, and I hope you enjoyed last week's video on how to make this pretty beginner level tank top that I'm wearing right now. And if you didn't see it, please click that link below in the description box and you can view that there. And today's video is going to be slightly more intermediate. We're using ruffles. I've never worked with ruffles before, so I hope it goes well. You can be the judge. Please let me know what you think. And if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe so you can see more videos from a YouTube taught sewer. I'm so excited. Thanks for being here. The fabric for this project is a green curtain with a ruffle detail around the edge. I know, very Sound of Music. I thrifted it for $1.99. It is very silky, has no stretch to it because why would a curtain be stretchy? And I like the shiny diamond pattern. So let's get started. With right sides together, I am once again patterning from a tank top that I already own and like the fit, and it's a little looser, which is why I picked it to accommodate for the non-stretchy fabric. Please ignore the deodorant marks. Oh my goodness, why does that happen? And why are they so hard to get out? Anyways, I am chalking around the outline, then I will use my thumb to feel and chalk a modified neckline. My goal is to not need a zipper in this shirt or any other way to get into it other than just pulling it over my head, so I am adding a larger seam allowance on the sides than normal. 1 inch for the sides and then ½ inch everywhere else. Once happy with your markings, all you need to do is just cut it out. Here's where I am starting to notice that this fabric is difficult to work with because it is so slippery. I bet pins would have worked. Anyways, here is the front. Time to move on to cutting out the back, using the same process, chalking around the edge and using my thumb again to chalk the neckline. Same thing again, adding that extra inch around the sides and then ½ inch everywhere else. Obviously, I'm now cutting out the back, and then stay tuned for mistake number 1 right here. I start cutting along the original shirt outline and not the marking that includes the extra 1 inch seam allowance. Look, I've literally frozen in shame. I didn't do anything to this shot. I'm just frozen. The fabric was so shiny that my back blocked my lighting and I couldn't see where I was cutting. So I just restarted cutting in the right spot and hope to figure it out. Flaunting my cutting error, I have turned to my dress form to pin it together and see if I can still make it work without using that extra inch I had planned. I also noticed that the shoulder seams didn't quite line up, so I'm just making a few edits. Moving on to figure out the ruffle detail, I am just draping a few different ideas on my dress form to see what looks best. And then look, I got a total sweet surprise for my husband. Flowers and candy. Thank you. That was not staged. He says he totally missed the camera. I'm going forward with a ruffle down the front detail and am lining up the back to the front and pinning right sides together, sandwiching the ruffle in between. Sewing a quick straight stitch line down each shoulder seam and then stopping when I get to the ruffle so that it can hang free. I'm going to call this finishing tape because it's definitely not bias tape since it was not cut on the bias. Anyways, I've cut strips of fabric 1½ inch wide and ironed it in thirds, then sewed them together to make one long piece. Leaving a little excess at the shoulder seam, I am lining up and pinning the strips to the right side of the garment neckline. Pin over the ruffle so that when it's complete, it will create a nice finished edge. To create a seamless neckline, fold over one edge of the finishing tape, then nestle the other piece inside so that when it's folded together, it will look clean. And so, making sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. This fabric frays like crazy. I need to put this finishing tape on real quick. After giving it a quick haircut, I'm folding over to hide all of the raw edges and then fold over once again, and this is all done on the inside so that it's not seen from the outside. Continue pinning along the entire neckline, leaving a little extra fabric showing from the inside. This will make sure the fold is not seen from the outside. Here's what it looks like after sewn. And next we need to make sure it's a V-neck and not a U-neck, which is a quick, easy process of just folding it in half and then sewing down that middle piece to make a V. Oh my goodness, the fraying on this fabric is driving me crazy. So let's finish these armholes fast. We're starting the same way as the neckline by folding down that edge and then pinning along the outside of the fabric. Or so I thought it was the outside of the fabric. So that we don't interrupt the ruffle, I have marked a chalk line to follow so that it gradually tapers into the iron fold. So much fraying. Starting from the ruffle, I'm following that chalk line, and then once I reach the iron fold, just continue sewing as normal. Or sewing as normal until I find out that I did it on the wrong side. So, gotta seam rip that out and start over. Angry eyeball. Okay, finally sewing on the correct side of the fabric, which is the outside, and then tapering into that ruffle. Folding over twice and pinning in place to sandwich all of the raw edges inside, which is a little difficult since I have to continually snip away the frayed fabric. Then continue this process to finish both armholes. And I accidentally caught a bit of the ruffle while I was sewing, so I had to seam rip that out and do it again. I swear, these are the armholes that will never end. Okay, all fixed. Let's move on. With the armholes finally finished, it's time to face the fabric right sides together so that we can sew up the sides. I got these cool new clips that I want to try out since the fabric is so slippery that I thought this might be a good way to keep it together. I've lined up that top edge so that I can use my serger to serge all along the edge. If you do not have a serger, a sewing machine, straight stitch, and then finishing the edges will work just as well. I've serged both sides and was happy to see when I turned it over that I saved as much fabric as possible with the serger because you can see my original chalk line. Moment of truth, I tried it on and it fits. Thank goodness I didn't end up needing that extra fabric I had planned on the sides. Next is to use my thumb to mark in chalk where the ruffle should be sewn on the front. This part was a little tricky. I first needed to serge that raw edge and then fold the ruffle back so that I only pin the serged edge and not the ruffle to the chalk line. I ended up pinning the ruffle back so that it wouldn't get in the way of the stitching. With the front ruffle finished, I am back to my dress form to figure out how I want the sleeves. I had enough ruffle left to make a cap sleeve. One way was to follow direction the front ruffle was already going, or this way that I actually like better by inverting the ruffle so that the gather was at the bottom. I ended up going with the second one, so let me know in the comments if I made the right decision. First step is to pin back the ruffle like I've done on the top one so that I can serge that raw edge. Now that it is serged, just flip it over and fold over once like the top example, then take it to the sewing machine and sew along that line of stitching. The sleeves were a little bit of an afterthought, so this is certainly not the proper way to do it, but I have pinned in place and folded over the edge on either side, and I'm just gonna sew it in. It got a little tricky in the middle and the fabric slipped, which resulted in a hole being left in the middle. By now, I am just used to these little mistakes, so I just re-sew it and fix it. The only thing left is to finish the hem. I'm marking where I want the bottom of the shirt to be so I can cut it straight before finishing off that raw edge with the serger, then folding over twice to sew on the sewing machine. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more videos filled with mistakes and how to correct them. Enjoy my mini dance montage and make it a great day.